Hello, dear friends. In this video, I'll share with you some shocking facts about the lives of women in Afghanistan. These stories reveal the harsh realities faced by millions of women every day, shedding light on the challenges they endure in silence. Stay with us to uncover the truths that are rarely spoken about and understand why the world needs to pay attention to these issues. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and let us get started. With the Taliban's rise to power in 2021, wearing the hijab became mandatory for all women in Afghanistan. This rule applies to all public spaces, and non-compliance can result in severe consequences, including arrest, corporal punishment, or public humiliation. Women are required not only to wear the hijab but also traditional clothing that fully covers the body. Even minor deviations from these strict norms can provoke aggression from the religious police. This regulation increases control over women's lives and suppresses any attempts at self-expression. The level of sexual violence and harassment in Afghanistan remains alarmingly high, particularly amid social and political instability. Women often fall victim to rape and sexual assaults, with most cases going unpunished. The country's legal system fails to provide adequate protection for the victims, and many women are afraid to report such crimes due to fears of stigmatization or retaliation. In some instances, victims are even accused themselves, further deepening their sense of hopelessness and fear. As a result, many cases of violence remain unreported and unaddressed. After the Taliban took power in 2021, women in Afghanistan were banned from participating in sports and attending sporting events. This rule applies to all forms of physical activity, including gym workouts and competition participation. The ban was imposed under the pretext of protecting moral and religious values, effectively excluding women from the country's sports life. Violating this ban can result in severe punishments, including arrest and physical violence. This prohibition deprives women of their right to physical development and participation in public life. In Afghanistan, the practice of early marriages remains widespread, particularly in rural and traditional communities. Girls are often married off at the age of 1,315 as part of cultural and economic customs, where marriages are arranged to strengthen family ties or for financial gain. These early marriages severely limit girls' access to education and expose them to risks associated with early pregnancy and domestic violence. Despite existing laws prohibiting child marriages, they are rarely enforced, leading to the continuation of this harmful tradition. Early marriages deprive girls of their childhood and the opportunity to choose their own future. Domestic violence in Afghanistan is one of the most pressing issues faced by women. Around 87% of women in the country experience various forms of abuse from their husbands or relatives, including physical, psychological, and sexual violence. Social norms and cultural taboos contribute to women remaining in abusive situations, often with no way to seek help. Despite the existence of laws intended to protect women, they are rarely enforced, and many cases of violence go unreported. This situation is further exacerbated by the lack of support and resources for victims, making the issue of domestic violence even more severe. Domestic violence in Afghanistan is one of the most pressing issues faced by women. Around 87% of women in the country experience various forms of abuse from their husbands or relatives, including physical, psychological, and sexual violence. Social norms and cultural taboos contribute to women remaining in abusive situations, often with no way to seek help. Despite the existence of laws intended to protect women, they are rarely enforced, and many cases of violence go unreported. This situation is further exacerbated by the lack of support and resources for victims, making the issue of domestic violence even more severe. In Afghanistan, women face intense pressure to limit their use of social media and the internet. This pressure comes from both family members and societal norms that deem women's online activity inappropriate or dangerous. In some cases, women are outright forbidden from using social networks, depriving them of the ability to express themselves, share information, and connect with the outside world. These restrictions further increase the isolation of women and limit their access to modern forms of communication and education. Violating this ban can lead to social and even physical punishments. In Afghanistan, there is a strict ban on mixed-gender education, which severely limits women's access to education. In institutions where this ban is enforced, classes are segregated by gender, and girls are often deprived of the opportunity to receive education under the same conditions as boys. This restriction not only reduces the quality of education for women but also hinders their professional and personal development. Women who wish to study face additional challenges, such as having to attend separate institutions or dealing with a lack of resources and qualified teachers. This ban highlights the deep inequality in access to education and continues to uphold patriarchal norms. In Afghanistan, women face severe shortages in medical care, particularly in the area of reproductive health. Limited access to medical facilities and qualified professionals results in high levels of maternal and child mortality. In remote and rural areas, access to healthcare is further impeded by the lack of infrastructure and resources. Many women are unable to receive necessary treatment and preventive care, leading to significant risks for their health and the health of their children. A lack of adequate medical support exacerbates issues related to pregnancy and childbirth, making women vulnerable to complications and illnesses. In Afghanistan, women face strict control from their families and society regarding their personal life and relationships. This control includes interference in their choice of partners, limitations on their freedom of communication, and strict adherence to traditional norms and behavioral rules. Women often do not have the right to independently decide who and when to enter into relationships, and are forced to follow the directives of relatives and societal expectations. This restriction on personal choice adversely affects their mental health and overall quality of life, and also hinders their development of individuality and independence. As a result, many women remain in relationships and marriages that they did not choose voluntarily. In Afghanistan, there is a significant wage disparity, especially in sectors where women and men perform the same work. Women often receive substantially lower pay compared to men, despite having identical qualifications and experience. This inequality is exacerbated by a lack of transparency in wage calculations and weak enforcement of labor rights. Financial discrimination contributes to increased economic inequality and hinders women's financial independence. Such wage disparities also limit their opportunities for career advancement and improving their living conditions. In Afghanistan, women are prohibited from participating in public protests and demonstrations, which significantly limits their ability to express dissent and demand change. This ban infringes upon women's rights to free assembly and freedom of expression, which are fundamental aspects of democracy and civic participation. Women who attempt to join protests often face violence, detention, and other forms of repression from authorities and radical groups. This suppresses their efforts to improve their situation and fight for equality. The restriction on women's participation in public actions exacerbates their isolation and denies them the opportunity to influence social and political processes.